Okay, great. Um, I'm Mark Sullivan with Fast Company, and we're going to be talking about go-to-market here for a few minutes. And before we get to start, just to table set, Linda, can you kind of like tell about your company, just a brief description?
Yeah, absolutely. Hi, I'm Linda Lian, co-founder and CEO of Common Room. We are a AI sales platform used by large enterprises like Atlassian and Twilio and Snowflake.
Hi, everyone. My name is Sarah Guo. I'm the founder of a venture firm called Conviction that was started a few years ago to focus entirely on AI. And before this, I was a partner at another larger generalist venture firm called Greylock for about a decade, where I was an investor in Linda's company.
Cool, thanks. Sarah, starting with you, why are enterprises right now starting to reimagine or reinvent sales now that AI is happening?
The core dynamic of sales is like a competitive one, right? You're like trying to get to the customer only has so much budget, you have to explain, find the problem, explain the value, go close the deal. I think if you think about like business processes that have a lot of language, which is the first thing large language models are good at processing, like this is it, right? Sales is a business process that has a lot of unstructured data that's economically valuable. And so it makes complete sense to me that it would be an area where people implement AI solutions early.
Yeah, we've seen accelerated adoption of AI for sales in the last even 2 quarters. And I think, if you think about the first real viable ROI specific use case, it's really around support. But now we're seeing organizations say, hey, on that customer experience funnel, how do we actually go and outbound to individuals who may not know about us already? And I think there's a couple of key trends that we're seeing in the market today that's causing CEOs to think about AI for sales. I think the first is there's still really aggressive growth targets, right? Sarah expects her private companies to be growing at 2x. A lot of our customers who are public still have to maintain double-digit % growth targets. That's really aggressive in a highly competitive, budget-reduced buyer environment where complexity is only increasing. None of our customers are slowing down on innovation, right? They're not building less products. They're launching more SKUs right now. There's absolutely an AI innovation war happening. I think on the flip side of it, we don't see any companies today getting rid of humans, right? Firing their reps, getting rid of their sales teams in order to replace them with an AI agent. All of our customers are still building more go-to-market headcount. And that's really because it's an absolute AI logo acquisition war out there right now. But I think within this backdrop, efficiency is a core mandate. And the 3 ways that we're seeing efficiency kind of manifest is really stretched AE to SDR ratios, right? You're getting less SDRs who go outbound and try to get new logos per every single AE who needs to close that deal. We're seeing that headcount, while growing, is skewing more junior. So all of a sudden, you have to hire 25-year-old sales reps to go sell highly complicated AI tech. And then I think the third thing is everyone's looking at budget consolidation. If you work in go-to-market, you'll know that the central engine of go-to-market has been this Frankenstack over the last 20 years of point solutions. And now folks are saying, hey, you know what? This Frankenstack isn't going to let me be agile. It's not going to let me be competitive. And then I think the last piece is sellers are waking up, right? I think if you think about all the functions in the enterprise, sales has definitely been left behind. The amount of incredible technology that we've created for engineering orgs, product orgs, or even marketing has not come to sales yet. And so I think I spoke with the SVP of acquisitions at a $60 billion database company last week, and he describes this as the steroid era of sales, where he wants to give his reps bionic arms, or he's afraid that his competitors will. But he admits himself, we're still in the shoe cobbling era, and that just gives you that visceral sense of how manual sales is today.
So it's there's, this is a language-oriented thing, which LLMs excel at, as you said. But it seems like it's on steroids. Everything's speeding up, and also the quality of the communications is improving too. It's more intelligent. Yeah. So this sounds great, but it also sounds difficult. I'm sure it's hard for sales organizations that have kind of like those legacy stacks and those legacy ways of doing things to make the transition. But I would like to ask both of you guys about what some of the barriers that organizations can run into, when they do try to implement these AI-powered go-to-market systems. Sarah, do you want to go first on that one?
Maybe I can just start with like something that is more general, which is, as you both well know, the transition to AI technology is happening very quickly, right? We have really rapidly growing new capabilities. We have companies turning those into solutions, and the ingestion of that into the enterprise, like the enterprise planning cycle, like structural constraints means you think about things you want to do from an innovation perspective or problems you have. You plan around it. You try to budget. You find a time that your organization can actually do it. And then you test and deploy, right? But that cycle might be 6, 18 months in general. Like the entire world has turned over in AI in the last 18 months, right? Like nobody was talking about this 2 of those cycles before. Yeah. So I think one of the biggest challenges is companies figuring out like how quickly they can do it. And I think the biggest blocking factor to that is actually the change management of humans at different levels of abstraction changing their workflows. So I just think that this is a game where the returns to adopting AI are very real. They make companies more competitive, and people are just struggling with first there's skepticism internally that people are fighting. Then there's some combination of that and fear, and then moving past that to what is the value, what is the sequencing, and how do I convince enough people to adopt is what I'm seeing in the market.
Linda, you've had those conversations probably very recently.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, Sarah, on that point, one of the things we always talk about is tribal knowledge doesn't scale. And so you may have a couple of sales reps who are, AI enabled, and they're using ChatGPT to go understand strategic objectives in a 10K because, they're strategically minded, but that's your top 1% of reps, right? And so I think AI has a huge opportunity here to almost standardize and close that strategy gap when it comes to your 1% best reps and kind of the long tail or the normal distribution of reps. I think the second piece that we're seeing is LLMs are a delivery mechanism that needs to sit on top of the right data. There's no, quality in, quality out, right? And I think the first kind of cycle of AI for sales really focus on the arms and legs piece of it, right? How do we, enable spam the TAM type of agentic SDR experiences where all of a sudden, everyone's getting flooded in their email inbox and getting called more than ever before. But I think in this current moment, and it's moving very quickly, large enterprises are really looking at, examining their data foundations, looking at, what first-party data within their 4 walls do they have? How do they need to break down those data silos so that you can actually put LLMs on top of that? That makes sense. And then I think one of the biggest, most exciting moments for us is that, we've spent 5 years building a lot of technologies that go out and crawl and scrape the web for the data out there. So as a specific example, if you're in sales, you know that as much as you care about what's in your CRM, you care about what's out there, right? Your prospect, are they on podcasts? Do they talk about certain things that they care about? What are they engaging with on social? That company, right? Is it the right timing for you to reach out? Do they have a certain strategic initiative happening? Are they growing in engineering headcount if you sell a developer tool? All of those highly relevant niche data lives outside your 4 walls. And in the history of sales and marketing, getting that data has been just an incredibly manual exercise, either by central ops teams who are constantly trying to evaluate point solutions and fill data gaps, or worse, it's what we enable sales reps to go do, right? We spend millions of dollars telling sales reps, hey, here's the complicated buyer map, here's how you understand strategy, here's the competitive set, go read a 10K, are you listening to earnings calls? I mean, that just does not scale. And I think, with AI research agents, you can effectively serve that up to reps on a silver platter. But better yet, central ops teams can configure that and scale that from a sort of like tops-down strategy. And we're seeing that really be a massive unlock for sales efficiency and pipeline acceleration right now.
I'm hopeful that eventually it comes to personal CRM as well. I think everybody has imagined a world where like the last 2,000 people that Mark met, the research automatically comes to him. He's notified when they do something interesting.
Yeah, I want that.
You've got 500 agents looking around and being like, that person has a story for you.
Yeah.
Totally.
Someday.
That would be okay with me. And yeah, the what you just described is, and it's not like the user has to make the demand for that information to surface. Looking at the platform, it looked like that was kind of happening automatically in the background, right?
Yeah, and the effects on rep ramp, right? So in any enterprise sales organization, how long it takes your rep to actually learn the competency is a huge driver of efficiency. I mean, it could be 6 months, it could be 9 months in enterprise sales orgs. And so the ability for AI to decrease that to weeks is an incredible efficiency driver. And to Mark's point, teaching a bunch of reps to do all these things is very, very hard. Giving it to them on a silver platter, prioritizing it for them, and saying, hey, go reach out to this person at this company today because this company has a strategic objective. This person talked about, how they care about it on a podcast. And oh, by the way, someone from that organization recently started a free trial. That is intelligence that's actionable for a sales rep.
So when you're doing this, do you meet people within organizations that, where somebody might be a tech-savvy person that's really gung-ho on this and kind of a champion inside, where other people might, have an idea of sales that's more like, traditional?
Yeah, I think right now what we're seeing is there's an increasingly tops-down mandate for sales efficiency with AI. So we're actually doing a bunch of pilots right now where it's the chief of staff of the CEO who's effectively program managing this across what historically has been kind of siloed organizations, right? You have marketing ops, you have sales ops, you have demand gen, you have sales. I mean, I would argue that the fact that those orgs are siloed from a data perspective, from a tooling perspective, from a workflow perspective makes no sense. Because at the end of the day, your customers don't see you as different teams. Your customers see you as one single brand, and they expect a cohesive experience across all of that.
Sarah, I wanted to ask you about the messaging part of this. I mean, is that a work in progress, or is it delivering great results already?
I think it goes back to what Linda said. So the ability to write well from LLMs from a style perspective, even the ability to copy styles, it is. I still won't use it for my writing because I'm kind of a stickler for it, and everybody thinks they have a particular voice.
Yeah.
But when you think of outreach as very the content is actually super important, more so than style is, right? So we're not talking about literary short stories. We are just trying to communicate a message often, and so clarity and efficiency really matter. We passed the point of no return that LLMs can do this well a long time ago, actually. A long time in AI is last year, but it works. You can write an email if you're feeding the right information in that any one of us would open. I think obviously the best rep can write poetry, just like any communication quality, getting to the ceiling is worthwhile. But here, I think the biggest challenge to date has been the first generation of AI sales tooling was very much we don't need any content, right? We're just going to scrape LinkedIn data and generate a bunch of generic messages, like whatever the internet says we would say.
Hey, you're from my hometown.
Right.
We should do business together.
Yeah, and like none of us cares, right? And they're like, oh, my hometown is 10 million people. Yeah, you know.
Right.
But I think the difference is like the reps and the sales leaders in these organizations, up to the CEO, they know what is actually going to drive a buyer to look up. It's like you found them at the right time, you understand their problems, and like you describe the solution in a way that's very specific to them because they're trying to solve that problem. And so I think that takes work at the data foundation layer. But I would argue, and you know, maybe sales leaders or Linda can correct me, like I think we have the writing quality necessary for this task already. I'm an investor in other companies that do some sort of business communication, including where quality of writing is actually arguably very important, right? Like customer support, Sierra, Harvey, legal.
Yep.
And I'd argue most of the legal profession is writing. And yet, like, we find it is very, the models are good enough to be effective.
Yeah, yeah. Interesting. So for enterprises looking at these types of solutions, red flags that may come up, can you talk to me about sort of the data security side of this? And I mean, there's a way for these systems to kind of play it fast and loose and maybe cross a line, right?
Yeah, I'm really glad you're bringing that up because as AI sales goes into production, right, as we're rolling things out to 500 reps, 1,000 reps, we're definitely seeing today it's easier than ever for LLMs to go and scrape any type of personal information about you on the open web and really go capture any data point. And so I think customer trust is going to be a huge linchpin in enterprise adoption. So as an example, like we partner with OpenAI, we run, our app on top of their foundation models, but very early on we had to negotiate a zero data retention policy with them because our customers don't want their customer data to be retained by LLMs. I think the other piece of it is I don't know if folks heard about this, but LinkedIn recently came down with a pretty prescriptive no on scraping LinkedIn, and it was pretty much the AI sales wild west. There were 1,000 bots scraping all of our engagement on LinkedIn, passing it into sales teams. And, I think they did the right thing by their members, but absolutely, as we're going into production, as these things are coming online, security, GDPR compliance, CCP, zero data retention policies will be critical.
Cool. Well, we are kind of starting to, was there any other real world examples of enterprises that are having success with this? And maybe tell us a little bit about what the metrics are.
Yeah, one of the companies that we're working with is Grammarly. They are a AI-assisted writing platform. And
it's very meta.
Yeah. And they had a really incredible go-to-market strategy team that had a vision around gathering all these signals about buyers and the prospects, unifying it into a central place, scoring all of that so that they can actually help the reps prioritize their day. And they leverage Common Room to really orchestrate and activate all of this intelligence and bring it to their field. And we just got some early results in the rollout. We generated 2 million of pipe in just 6 weeks. And so when you think about that type of ROI, I think that's what we're going to see more of this year coming online, and it's incredibly exciting, kind of the impact that we can drive for these businesses and organizations and sales teams. I think on the flip side of that, we're seeing that customers are really delighted when you reach them at the right moment with the right message. They say, hey, you prospected me perfectly. Like, I was really confused by your pricing page. I would like to get on a call and better understand, all these SKUs. And so, to me, the biggest, power of AI for sales is to provide a way more timely, more relevant, more personalized experience for folks who are looking to buy something. And I think, I think that's the other part that is super exciting, as the writing piece is very good.
All right.
I think
Yeah.
Maybe they'll kick us off in 2 seconds, but
Okay.
my friend Chris Ray, who's like he's actually considered an official MacArthur genius, but he's a professor of AI at Stanford and a smart business guy. One way he describes like what's happening in the AI application landscape that applies to sales really makes sense to me. He says there's like a bunch of companies that are getting chicken nugget revenue. The other way I think of it is that like we call it in companies high fructose corn syrup, where I really think the first generation of AI outbound tooling in particular, where they're like, we can send emails en masse, or heaven forbid, like do dialers with voices and garbage content. That actually drove a lot of traction for companies in this space. But companies, like real customers, turned off that pretty quickly because it doesn't serve a real need. Nobody wants the spam, which is what it is. And I think like, all the customers, they're actually buying the products. They need the products. They need some of the products. And I think that's what we're going to see this year in terms of those real ROI use cases.
All right.
Absolutely.
You guys were about to get the hook, so better wrap up. But thank you very much, you guys.
Thank you.
Perfect.